The last example in your notes of a two-way frequency table is one in which the totals are not given. You'll notice there's no total column here. There's no total columns under here. So we still can do these problems. You're just going to have to use a calculator to come up with some totals that you need depending upon the question. So this is supposed to be basically an inventory of some library books. So they counted the hardback ones, and within the hardback they looked at fiction and nonfiction, and then they also looked at illustrated and non-illustrated. And then the same thing for the paperbacks, fiction and nonfiction, illustrated and non-illustrated. So the first question says, what is the probability that a book selected at random is a paperback given that it is illustrated? So the given part right there is your clue about what goes on the bottom. When it says given, that means that's what it's out of. So that means I am only looking at the illustrated column. Okay. In the illustrated column, there are 420 hardbacks, 590 hardbacks that are nonfiction, 150 paperbacks that are fiction, and 110 paperbacks that are nonfiction, all in the illustrated category. So first thing I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to come up with the total number of illustrated books. So that's going to come from adding this column, 420 plus 590 plus 150 plus 110. So when you add those columns up, you're going to get for an answer 1,270. So that is going to be my denominator of this one. The numerator is the number of paperbacks that are in that category. So for the paperbacks, oops, hold on. 1,270. For the number of paperbacks in that category, I have to still stay in this column for illustrated books because it says given that we are talking about the total number of illustrated books. But the paperbacks are these two. There's fiction paperbacks and nonfiction paperbacks that are illustrated. So when I add those up, I get 260. So if I take 260 and divide by 1,270, I get approximately 20.5%. Okay? The second example, let's figure out what it is we're trying to find. It says, what is the probability that a book selected at random is nonfiction given that it is a non-illustrated paperback? So that's the part, it's nonfiction. The total number of nonfiction books out of the total number of non-illustrated, not illustrated, illustrated hardbacks. So if I find the total of non-illustrated hardbacks, then I am going to be talking about, non-illustrated is the column, non-illustrated hardbacks, whoops, non-illustrated hardbacks is referring to these two categories, okay? So when I add those together, that's going to give me 1,030. That's what it's out of. Remember that bar means that this is in the denominator, okay? And then I want to know the number of nonfiction in that category. So right here is the number of hardbacks total, okay, that are non-illustrated. And then the number that are nonfiction is the one that's the 250. So it's going to be the 250 out of the 1,030. So if I divide those, I'm going to get approximately 24.3% of the books that are nonfiction, or of the books that are non-illustrated hardbacks are nonfiction. Okay, and then the third one, what is the probability that a book selected at random is a paperback? It doesn't say anything about given. That means that this is still out of the entire total, okay? So a book selected at random would just be considered to be the total, okay? So that means that I'm going to have to come back up here and I'm going to have to take all of the books in the library, every single one of them, all of these, and add them up, which is going to give me 3,610. And then I want to know how many of them are paperbacks. Well, the paperback category is this category right here. oops, sorry. Paperbacks are right here. Got to go across. This is paperback fiction that are illustrated. This is paperback fiction that are non-illustrated. Paperback nonfiction that are illustrated. Paperback non-illustrated nonfiction books. So when I add those up, those give me a total of 1,570. So that's going to be my numerator, 1,570. And then from there, I just go ahead and do the division, and it turns out to be about 43.5% of the books are paperback. So almost half of the books in the library. Okay? So that's how you complete frequency tables. Sometimes the totals are given, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they don't even fill in all of the table for you, and you have to fill in some of it. But this is the idea behind reading two-way frequency tables.